Welcome, citizens, to Liberty, Tales from the Tower. As your media director, it is my privilege to inform you that the following stories will contain content that some listeners will certainly find disturbing. But first, we here at Tower 4 have a few special announcements. An update on the pressure changes in District 9. It has now been determined that the drastic changes in local atmospheric pressure were the outcome of an accidental mishap resulting from the district's Take Your Child to Work Day. The dizziness, vomiting, sinus discomfort, and joint pain experienced by some citizens will fade quickly, and the at-fault party has been reprimanded. Well, at least it was a simple citizen error. Something easily fixable without much damage to the vital equipment that keeps our city in pristine condition. What if it had been a real problem? What if it had been something not so easily fixable? A fault, a failure, a breakdown, a malfunction. What if? Malfunction was written by Travis Vengroff and is read for us by the one and only David Cummings.
Government-sanctioned private investigator. Most citizens will romanticize the job. They'll tell you it's a role filled with great adventures, secretive spy work, or glamorous celebrity bodyguard gigs. That's not the case. Not normally. Typically, we investigate minor infractions, marital infidelity, runaways, claims of intellectual theft, the boring day-to-day troubles that the community enforcers don't have the time for. We even get assigned the kind of issues not important enough to involve the Civil Defense Force. In this specific instance, I was hired by two citizens in District 4. The couple lived on the third floor of a 19-story apartment tower, and they suspected someone was spying on them. The systems on all their devices were acting strangely, and one of the tamper fail-safes they'd installed after their initial suspicions had given them anomalous readings. I met with a couple. They were fairly nice kids. Young, friendly, attractive. Altogether model citizens. They gave me a nice bonus in advance, just because I accepted the job. Before you ask, it's not too atypical a practice, tipping, though it is uncommon. The couple had their own pair of suspects, an old gossip from down the hall, or perhaps a mystery voyeur hoping to see some skin. Regardless, they didn't feel safe. They felt as though they were being watched or listened to, so we met at a club nearby, across from the Sigmund Center. I told them to turn off all of their at-home devices before they left for work the next day, and that I'd start my investigation then. I'm not much of a techie, but as a GSPI, I have access to tools smarter than me. I used the advance payment the couple had given me to purchase an upgraded diagnostics tool I knew would help, and took the rest of the day off. There was not much I could do before setting foot in their apartment. The next morning, I walked to the tower the couple resided at, and used the provided key to enter their unit on the third floor. It was a nice place, all things considered, and it was clear to me they had made a small effort to clean the place before I arrived. While I appreciated the sentiment, I hoped it hadn't clued in the would-be snooper or destroyed any potential clues. Prepared, I got to work. First, using a simple override tool I'd been issued, I enabled very specific functions on the devices I wanted to investigate. The technology allowed me to investigate without enabling the motion tracking, intranet, or audio-visual capabilities of the devices under scrutiny. I then used my new diagnostic toy to assess what was happening to their devices. Here's where it got weird. Some of the unpowered devices were still, in fact, on, though they were in a low-powered sleep mode which appeared inactive. They weren't recording at that moment, at least I don't believe they were, apparently because certain program triggers were not being met. The diagnostic tool also helped explain that the display lights, which indicate when a device is on or off, had been reprogrammed, and that the devices were never truly off. The smart devices in their bathroom, bedroom, and kitchen had also been recording and transmitting full-quality videos via short range to somewhere nearby. The videos, disguised as fragmented data, were stored locally and deleted after being transferred via intranet over extended periods of time. This was to avoid affecting tower-wide bandwidth or spiking any interest in such high data usage. I copied the 3 video files that hadn't yet been deleted onto my datapad as evidence and left the apartment. Plainly put, it wouldn't be possible to track who had done this through technology. This pervert, or whatever, clearly knew what he was doing and had acted very carefully, in so much as I could tell. Again, I'm admittedly not a techie, but the diagnostics tool had helped determine that the transmissions were sent to somewhere within the tower. It felt encouraging to have already narrowed down the search to 6 blocks of a single 19-story tower. After that, I started with the basics. The pervert would probably be someone close to the couple, at least within a few floors of them, so I spent much of the morning going door to door, posing as a utility and maintenance worker. I planned to ask the residents if they had seen anyone suspicious tampering with the doors or utility boxes. But since it was working day, not a single resident was home. So instead, I again resorted to running diagnostics, verifying that no one had stored files in the tower archive that matched the same file sizes or names as the ones I'd been able to salvage. The new diagnostic tool I'd purchased also had functions I hadn't utilized before, so I also gave them a go, and also checked for matching cryptographic and signature functions searches. I soon discovered that my clients were not the only ones being watched. They were just the only ones aware that they were being watched. Every apartment I visited shared an eerily similar set of instances on their devices. Anything remotely smart was never truly off. It was upsetting, to say the least, but it was only the beginning. It was only after inspecting the last apartment of my client's floor that I noticed the video files I'd saved earlier were now missing from my datapad. I was inside the bathroom of an empty apartment, standing before the mirror when I made this upsetting discovery. At that exact moment, as if on cue, a little blue light on the mirror blinked on. The mirror had a fashion app installed, one that shows an augmented version of your reflection to preview various clothes or provide step-by-step instructions on the application of cosmetics. In that moment, the mirror's light and the app turned on, like whoever was behind this wanted me to know they were watching. However, the app's usual feminine voice, meant to consult a fashion choice, remained mute. It blinked a few styles of hoods over my head before it began processing in such a quick flurry of pixels that nothing took form, except for sprawling handwriting that ever so slowly covered my reflection across the mirror. You are not welcome here. That's all it read before patches of static overtook the mirror, blotting out the reflection of my eyes and releasing a loud, disorienting hiss. I jumped as behind me the shower turned on, rushing at full pressure and full heat. When I say full heat, I mean the water came out at an industrial heat. So hot it boiled and hissed from the pipes, and a wave of steam engulfed the room. It felt unbearably warm from half a meter away, and my hands flailed to close the shower door, which was watertight. As I stumbled toward the nearby bedroom, I discovered, much to my confusion, that the door was locked. At first, I thought I might have locked it myself, panicked as I was, but each passing moment all but confirmed my suspicions. Under different circumstances, I might have even guessed it to be some kind of sick home invasion defense system. But whatever the cause, I frantically tried a combination of voice commands and special codes that might override the settings. Override code 7-Theta-12B5. Password exclamation. As the shower filled to shin height with boiling water, I realized I was gambling my life with these more civil attempts at escape and started slamming the door with all my weight. By the Archon, all the useless scrap! Thankfully, it was a new model of door, not beholden to the old security standards from the Red War, and I was able to break through by the time the water reached half the shower's capacity. Free, but sweating from the heat, I ran through the living room to the front door and felt uneasy when it simply opened. This case needed to be escalated. I needed to contact the Civil Defense Force. Someone was committing more than simple voyeurism. Still shaken from the death trap, I staggered down the stairwell, fumbling through my contact list before clicking the closest District 4 office. Only the call wouldn't connect. I thought I must have keyed in the wrong information, so I tried again. Thankfully, by the time I reached the ground floor, someone picked up.
Hello?
This is Private Investigator Ursus Yamada, reporting an emergency situation in Tower 32C.
How unfortunate. Can you expand on your situation, Investigator?
Some kind of a technical malfunction or tampering has turned an apartment into a death trap. I suspect multiple apartments are affected, but there's more here. Something malicious. I need a squad sent to the 3rd floor immediately. Send a few techs from Goptum. We have to get...
No.
The voice caught me off guard, disrupted my thoughts. The line of hope I had clung to when making the call was severed.
No one's coming for you, Yamada. You're gonna die there. Alone.
A blast of high-frequency static deafened me and shorted my datapad as the call abruptly ended. Everything leading up to that moment, the investigation, the bathroom, the conversation, had felt surreal. But the piercing screech pulled me out of my confused trance, and I bolted down the hallway toward the tower's main exit. I was a mere 4 meters from the double doors when the heavy security shutters dropped with a clang, blocking any hope of an easy escape. So I changed tactics and clumsily used my tools to enter the nearest apartment. I had half hoped to trigger an intruder alarm, but had no such luck. Not that the signal would have reached anyone. My real plan was to get out through a window since I was still on the ground floor, but this also proved impossible. The glass was high grade, bulletproof, and thanks to the security measures in place from the malicious malware, entirely unwilling to open. Switching tactics, I turned on the main hollow wall of the apartment and tried, yet again, to trigger an emergency. To my horror, the emergency services were disabled. Of course they were. Whoever was doing this had absolute control over the tower's systems. My feelings shifted from dismay to dread as I frantically pulled up the blueprints to Tower 32C in an attempt to find another means of escape. I scanned the map for mere seconds before the screen flashed a blinding display of colored patterns. As the patterns burned into my retinas, I threw the datapad on the floor and rubbed my eyes. My vision returned just in time to see movement behind me, likely the culprit. I must have been knocked unconscious, because that's the last thing I remember. Well, then I remember being here, in this interrogation room. I'm being entirely honest, officer, when I say I'm unsure what triggered your arrival.
So it wasn't you that sent the message?
No, I wasn't able to get anything out.
What about the previous day? Your day off? Did you perhaps mention the case to a fellow investigator? Someone who could have noticed your absence?
PI work is competitive and thankless. You should try it sometime.
Then I suppose that concludes our interview.
Great. Thank you, officer. You can send any follow-up questions to my apartment. I'm gonna need a few days of vacation after all this.
Oh, you're not going anywhere, Yamada.
Thank you for listening to Liberty, Tales from the Tower. Malfunction was written by Travis Vengroff. Tales from the Tower is co-created by K.A. Statz and Travis Vengroff. Malfunction was read by David Cummings and Dayn Leonardson, produced with sound design by Travis Vengroff and Rikke Rømer, with music by Brandon Boone and Yoshitaka Hirota, mixing and mastering by Finnur Nielsen. If you would like more information about the world of Liberty, please check out libertyendures.com or follow Atreus Endures on social media. This production is copyright 2016 and 2025 by Fool and Scholar Productions, and Liberty is a trademark of Travis Vengroff. Thank you for listening. May the Archon watch over you.